So we're just going to start thinking about the feet. Feet hip width apart, nice and parallel. Come back a little bit. And I just want you to lift your toes up. So lift your toes all the way up off of the floor and then relax them down again. Lifting your toes all the way up. And while you're lifting your toes up, see if you can spread the toes apart as well. And then lowering them back down to the mat. So let's lift the toes up, try and spread them apart, and then lower the toes and just pitch your weight forwards so that you can just lift your heels up a little bit and feel like the weight is evenly distributed over the ball of your foot, and then go back a little bit. So this is sort of a rocking forwards and backwards movement with your feet, with your centre of gravity if you like. So exploring that movement forwards and backwards. So I'm going to try and move forwards and backwards, side to side, and in rotation, or taking circles and also in rotation in different body parts, and see how we go. So this is the forwards and backwards movement. Just gently pitching forwards and backwards. And then let's look at the side to side movement that's available in our feet and our ankles. So roll both feet in, roll both feet out. You might just want to have a little look down at your own feet, noticing all the changes that happen just from changing the weight distribution, if you like, in the soles of your feet with that contact with the floor, how it changes everything. It changes the position of your ankle, changes the position of your knees, your thigh bones, which is going to affect your hips. Lots of changes just from taking that rolling in and out, side to side action of the feet and the ankles. And then let's just circle the ankle, pushing the ball of the foot into the floor, changing direction, just noticing the amount of movement that we've got in the ankle, in all those toes. Might be having a little bit of a crunch and a click there. Mine definitely are. Let's change legs. So it's really interesting when we take isolations and we're looking at our putting a certain body part into its end ranges of movement, and then you can see how much scope you've got for to come out of alignment, I guess. And ankles are particularly interesting with this, all of that mobility and all of those different positions. But the feet, we use them all the time anyway when we're standing on one leg, so that's really good. Great, let's think about the pelvis. I'm just going to turn slightly sideways on. So taking a pelvic tilt. So imagine your pelvis is a box. So you've got a box here, box for the rib cage, box for the head. We're just looking at the pelvic box for the moment, if you like. So we're tucking under, drawing that belly button in nice and tight, lifting the pubic bone forwards, no buttocks joining in, and then arching in the opposite direction. So taking a forwards and backwards movement with that pelvis. And I have to bend my knees for this, otherwise it doesn't really go anywhere. Just see how that feels. Maybe the overarching of the back won't feel that comfortable today, but the sending down of your tailbone and the lengthening out of that lower back should actually feel quite nice. Make sure that you're not using your buttocks, as I said, just that lower abdominal wall. Coming back to face forwards, in fact I'm going to leave my top there. So I've got a nice straight line at the bottom of my top. I'm bending my knees again. Let's think about the hips. I call this hip hitching. I'm shortening in my waist either side. So one end of my top is lifting up and then the other end is lifting up. It looks like I'm doing this, but I'm not. I'm keeping my weight equal on both feet and I'm lengthening one leg because I'm shortening here at the waist. So the pelvis sort of does this. So if you every time you lifted up your leg, if you did that same movement and you shortened in the hip, you've tilted your pelvis. So that's where it's so important in the alignment. So that's the sort of side to side movement. Have a little look down, place your hands on your fingertips on your hip bones and just let your hips rotate. So when you look down, your hips are level with each other, sort of, they're above my, I feel like they're above my tops of my toes there. And then just as I take a rotation around my spine, and I'm trying to isolate just the pelvic box, not the ribcage box, I'm just taking that rotation. This is a bit like our seesaw hips that we do in stretches, which we will do a little bit later. So that's your rotation from side to side. Then let's take a whole full circle with the hips. So movements got much bigger, other body parts have to join in to make this happen. Let's change direction. Noticing all that. Again, that lovely amount of movement that you've got there in that hip joint. Let's take a figure of 8. So as I take a figure of 8, I'm pushing forwards with one hip and then the other hip. So the figure of 8 is sort of, it's as seen from above. Imagine your hip bone at the front is drawing each circle. So my right hip is drawing the right side of the figure of 8, my left hip is drawing the left side of the figure of 8. If you can, well, this is weird, try and reverse the direction. So still drawing a figure of 8, trying to keep the ribs fairly still. Great, okay. Talking about the ribs, let's take that rib cage box. So it's sitting on top of the pelvic box, one way is standing nice and upright. Shift it backwards, shift it forwards, shift it backwards, shift it forwards. I really don't mind what you do with your arms. Sometimes I have my hands on my shoulders, I bring my elbows forwards, I pin my elbows back. Sometimes I have the arms nice and wide. If you're feeling in a sort of more generous, bigger arm mood today, then by all means add that one on, but try and get that rib cage to shift. And actually, thinking about that, let's take that back a little bit, because I wanted this to be isolations. So try and keep the hips a bit more still now. So shifting that rib cage forwards and backwards. Let's take a chest pop. So this, I always feel like this is like your ribs are opening up at the front. It's like a Pac-Man, you're opening up the mouth at the front of your ribs here. So I'm going to place this hand on my chest and the other hand at the back of my head, pushing my head into my hands and lifting the chest and then closing down. So opening up the rib cage at the front and then closing it back down, so that you're just sort of opening up the front edge of that box, if you like, one side of the box. So it's got a lid on it, you're lifting up the lid and then you're closing it. My head, I'm trying to keep my head, the reason I've got my hand behind my head is I'm trying to keep my head fairly still and in the same movement, so that I'm isolating this rib cage by lifting the chest. It's called chest pops. All the way up to the top. Then taking the arms out to the side, go a little bit wider with your feet now. Gentle with this one, it's quite a strong movement. Just try and touch one wall to the side, then try and touch the other side. So we're shifting that rib cage box from side to side. In the same way that when we were doing this one, I didn't want you to straighten the legs and just drop your weight from side to side. Try not to shorten, try not to tip with your shoulders. So the arms stay parallel to the floor as you go from side to side. Shifting that rib cage from side to side, isolating, so that we can control these movements. When those ribs flare when we're lying on our backs, we can draw the rib cage down. We know how to use those muscles. If we're hitching in the waist, we know how to drop that hip down to keep both sides of the torso stable. Good. Have we got any more with the ribs? Yep, circles. So circling the rib cage all the way around. So now we're moving more from isolations into mobilizing that rib cage spine, which we know is our tighter side. but a little bit of isolating in the sense that you're trying to keep your hips fairly still. So I've changed direction. If you haven't changed direction, do that now. And then this is quite a difficult one, but try a figure of 8. It really doesn't go very far. Yeah, we'll leave that one there. And then let's take rotation of the rib cage. So very important in our Pilates classes. We want to be able to isolate just this rib cage. The jam jar, the lid of the jam jar is here underneath your bust. If you have a bust, ribs, those lower ribs at the front, the thumbs are at the back of the ribs, and I'm just sort of I'm going to keep my hips absolutely still and just rotate around my spine. And right now I'm keeping my head forward, so it's even harder to get this movement going, but you should notice, and this is the point of doing things like isolations, in order to isolate just the ribs and get the correct muscles working, I need to keep other bits still. So if I can move my head as well, which will just make it feel a little bit more comfortable, but you don't want to be joining in with your hips as well there. Great, let's take the shoulders, just the shoulder girdle. Forwards, centre, back, centre. Forwards, centre, back, centre. The arms are joining in a little bit, mainly because they're attached to the shoulders. Can't really take them off and do this movement on their own. Let's take the shoulders up round the ears, draw the shoulders down. Up round the ears, draw the shoulders down. A couple more. Let's take one up, one down. Go on a diagonal. Other one up, one down. Trying not to join in anywhere else. Okay, please have it. The bra straps, that one. And then double shoulder rolls all the way backwards. Thinking about this joint here. Imagine you've got a sticker on there. Sort of a neon sticker, a neon star, because you've been very good at school today or in class. It's sticking there, and you're just imagining that circle, always going backwards. And then let's do some singles. So in order to make the single shoulder roll comfortable, I'm just allowing my rib cage and my shoulder girdle to rotate a little bit as well, but I'm keeping the hips facing forwards. Otherwise it just gets into a whole bigger movement. Great, let's think about the head. So we've worked our way all the way up through the feet. Head coming forwards where we don't really want to be, but head coming back. Again, quite a big range of movement. So let's just come forward slightly of a neutral position and then try and go back as much as possible. I think about pushing my chin back towards the wall behind me. It's not lifting the chin, it's not completely jamming it down either. It's drawing the chin and the jaw back on a straight line. Facing forwards, tilting and wincing a little bit with this one, and you might be the same as well. And I'm just going to place my fingertips to touch my legs. This is quite strong. In isolation, the head doesn't go very far, and it's quite a strong stretch, which is what made me wince a little bit. But I've got my hands on my legs, making sure, and I can see in the mirror, that my shoulders are staying absolutely level. Now, from that nice, strong, tall, upright posture, I'm going to turn my head from side to side. Again, think about fingertips touching the legs. Are those arms, are those shoulders going with your head? Try and isolate the head. And it will also feel quite strong stretch, quite tight. Maybe one side is a little bit tighter than the other. So something to look out for on this one. If you turn towards one shoulder, either the shoulder that you've turned towards might come up to meet your chin, or the other shoulder will follow you to that same side. That's an area, that's a sign that it's tight. So try and keep shoulders absolutely still, try not to let them join in. And if you, as always, if you feel there's an area that's a bit tighter or uncomfortable, just stay there and breathe and hold it a little bit longer. Let's move on a little bit more from there with a half a head roll, turning fully to the side, taking that chin down onto the chest, coming up to the other side. So drawing a semicircle with your chin, down to the side, lifting up, down to the side, lifting up, and then the top half, looking up, noticing, still touching my legs, still hoping to trying to keep those fingers, arms, shoulders still without letting them join in, and then all the way around. Great, well done. Let's take some prayer arms. This has no religious connotation. This is from Garuda Pilates. We're just going to take the arms out to the side, turning the palms up. Explore a little bit of rotation here. So palms are really up. I'm rotating so my thumbs are backwards a little bit. It makes me want to lift my chest, but just try and keep that chest relaxed. All the way up to the ceiling. Palms are going to come together, and then as you draw your arms down, palms together, I'm thinking of drawing my elbows down, tracing a line down through the centre of my body. Just fingertips and past my nose. As I'm drawing my arms down, I'm thinking of lengthening my spine in the opposite direction. My regular attendees to my classes, we always generally finish off with this in class. But today was part of our warm-up. So we're going out to the side, palms are up, rotating those thumbs backwards. We're going to add a little bit more movement each time as we do this prayer position with the arms, or a prayer sweep. So you get sort of here, and the hands just come apart. In fact, just take the fingertips down and then just let the arms release. So we're going to add a little bit more on each time to this. So lifting up your head up this time and looking up. And then as you bring your arms down, draw those elbows in, open up the shoulders, bring your eye line level with your fingertips, and then follow your fingertips down just with your head. And then tip the hands down and then relax down. Bring the arms out to the side and bring the head back up again. Let's do one more of those. So we're going to gradually add a little bit more of the body joining in with each movement. So this is just the head. Shoulders are staying still. And again, nice, even, quite deep breathing if you can. So shoulders are up a little bit there, but that's fine. I'm going to draw them down as I lower my hands. This time I'm going to allow my shoulders to join in. And just let that upper body hang. So from the side I've just gone to here. And then I'm coming up again. All the way to the top. Let's do that one again. Palms are together, elbows are down. I'm trying to lengthen up through the crown of my head. The head has gone down. It's a little bit late with that one because I was too busy chatting. Let those arms hang forwards, let the shoulders hang forwards, and then we're stacking the spine. Thumbs are out. Everything's getting a little bit bigger now. This time I'm going to take my head down, fingertips down, shoulders are down. I'm going to soften my knees. Just let those arms hang, just till my hands are level with my knees, and then straighten the legs, unravel the spine as you're lifting up. Now maybe allow that chest to go a little bit up to the top. Let's go again to the knees, elbows are down. Try and keep moving constantly. Knees are soft. I'm sending my tailbone down a little bit. One. Couple more of those, sorry, going a little bit further. This time we're going to take our fingertips to our toes. Past your nose, the head follows. Hands go down, shoulders round, knees soften. Just unravel that spine, letting the head hang, letting the arms hang, touch the floor, and then rolling back up. Remember to tuck that pelvis under. Push the pubic bone forwards. Take those thumbs all the way back. Arms are all the way up to the ceiling. Let's go again. Palms are together. Elbows are drawing down. I'm lengthening, and it's like my top of my head goes up and over. Hands down, shoulders down, knees soften. All the way down. Stay down there this time.
Just let those hands reach out forwards a moment, no weight into them at all. Let the head relax, knees are soft, and then bring the hands back. We're going to take one more full version all the way up to the top. Thumbs are back, arms are up to the ceiling, palms are together, elbows are down. I'm lengthening in the opposite direction, so working actually quite hard all the way through this. Chin down, shoulders relax over, knees soften. This time you're just going to stay there, hang, allow your upper body to unravel like Rapunzel. Feel where that weight is, make sure it's in the middle of your feet, not back on your heels or the ball of the feet, and then straighten the legs, soften the knees, 2 more times. Breath out as you straighten, breath in as you just soften the knees. You don't need to do a great big knee bend, it's just to get those hamstrings warmed up a little bit, and then strongly tuck under, push that pubic bone forwards. There's that isolation that we already did, so important in a lot of our movements, and then coming all the way up. Great job. Okay, let's get moving a little bit bigger now. So let's go a bit wider with the feet. Insteps are parallel, taking the arms up to the ceiling. We're going to take, I'm going to step forwards a little bit, we're going to take a big swing followed by 2 double arm circles, or you could do elbows or shoulders, followed by a rise and a balance. Here we go. So big swing down, all the way up to the top. Keep those arms going backwards, and then get the arms up above your head and rise up and balance, holding it there a moment. Lower those heels, go again. Let those fingertips brush the floor. Get your balance first before you raise up on the heels. 2 more. Circling backwards, nice and relaxed with that rib cage. All that weight forwards on the balls of the feet. Strong ankles, no rolling out. Nice, beautiful straight legs. Last one. Breath out. And shoulders are down. Rising up, hold that there. Lengthen up through the crown of your head. Extend those fingertips a little bit more. Lower and relax. Brilliant. Good. Let's take some reaches up. Let's stay nice and wide. So I'm just outside shoulder width apart. Reaching up, about 4 of these. Lifting the rib cage off of the hips. Let's do a couple more. Hold both arms up. Reach the arms out to the side as you lower, but you've got that lovely length in the spine. Let's take one arm up, one arm down, and then over to the sides. 4 side bends with flowing arms. Really stay sideways. Keep the weight equal through both feet. So when I say stay sideways, what I mean is don't let that underneath shoulder roll back. Stretching down the side seam of your body. Let's do 2 more. Hold this one here a moment. I'm going to go from here. I'm going to take this top arm down, all the way down. I'm going to swap arms over and then look underneath it to come back up. Just watch me if you haven't done this one before. I call it the paint circle. Imagine you've got paint in this top hand. You're stretching over. You've drawn your half a circle. You're going to swap over the paintbrush into the other hand and then complete the circle as you come up. Here we go. So over to one side. The goal is to get a side bend both times. Really stretch, and also to relax your head, especially in the middle. When you're bending your knees, make sure your knees are going over your toes. Your weight is going to transfer from one side to another. That's absolutely fine. Coming up to the top. 1 more each side. Here we go. Last one, I think. And there, and all the way up to the top. Fantastic. Great. Okay. A little bit of one leg stand work. Really looking at keeping the torso nice and square. And then at the end of it, we're going to take a bit of rotation in the shoulders, which is going to be quite challenging. I'd like you to have your feet completely together, and we're just going to start by alternating legs. So starting with one leg and then swapping to the other. So peeling one heel off
and then pointing that foot if you can, lifting it all the way so that pointed toe, or toes, my big toes touching the inside of my knee. The leg is beautifully parallel, there's been no change in my torso. Sliding back down that leg, swapping to the other side. So especially here, while you're doing this movement, so carry on a few more, place your hands around your torso. How is everything feeling? Your waist, your sides, there should be no change whatsoever. Watch that there's no curly feet. If I face you, this is a curly foot. Nasty. So get that instep nice and parallel. Everything is parallel, everything is square in its correct position. We've got the feet together, so there shouldn't be too much of a shift from side to side in that balance and that plumb line. We're going to add on to this, so lifting that leg up, and just place your hands wherever you're comfortable, hands on your hips, maybe touch your shoulders, wherever you need to be to check that everything's in the correct position. Lift that leg up, if you can be here, and I want you to actually place your hands on your thigh. We're going to isolate that lower leg by just extending out, keeping that foot pointed. Bring it back in, toes touching the knee, and then lower. So lifting, just for this first one each side, hold your leg still, hold your thigh still. We're isolating, we're only extending that lower leg. If that's too much for you, you could do a couple of things. You can have a bit of support by the spare hand on the wall or the back of a chair. You could also, you don't have to lift it up so high. You could just come to here, but same thing, same rules apply. Keep the thigh still. Let's go one more. There, extend, come back in and lower. Then we're moving on to rotation in the hip socket. So lifting one leg up. I'm keeping everything still. This time place your hands on your torso, thumbs and fingers outspread so that you've got that good connection with your torso. Keeping the hips absolutely still, I'm going to turn only this one leg out in my hip socket, coming back to the centre and then lowering, swapping to the other side. Lifting, it's quite tough on the balance, opening out, coming back to the centre and there. Keep going, swapping sides. So we really need the rib cage to be lifted off of the hips so that you can you've created space in that hip socket to allow that thigh bone to rotate out. This is really quite challenging. You might want to just put your hands at the sides of your hips. One side might feel okay and the other side, your tighter side, unfortunately, will feel a little bit tight and you will feel like maybe that knee doesn't go so far. You're absolutely trying to keep both hips, from parallel to turn out, both hips facing forwards. If you don't isolate, this is what's going to happen. We don't want that to happen. We want to isolate, switching on the muscles, switching on the rotator muscles in the hip, in your glutes. Good, and absolutely again, no curly toes on that one. Okay, I'm going to pitch forwards a little bit. We're taking the leg to the back, so we're lifting one leg. Quite a few things are going on this one. We're going to extend the leg out behind you, keep it nice and low. This time I'm flexing the foot and I'm going to bend my standing leg so that I've hinged over this hip. And again, I'm looking in the mirror, hips and shoulders absolutely square. Come back to upright, toe touching the knee, swap sides. We're here, really square. At the same time, flex the foot. I've hit the wall. A little bit of a cheat for me, it gives me a nice bit to rest on. Hips are square, shoulders are square, this leg is bent, knee is tracking over the toes. I've hinged over this hip. Nothing has changed in my back, I haven't collapsed, and there. Let's do a few more of those. I'm going to turn sideways just to give myself a little bit of space as well. So we're lifting, flexing, hinging, bending that standing leg. It is all going on this one. Lifting and lowering, and again. There. Flex. This will be quite challenging on the balance. on to doing, like I did in class the other day, we're going to take the leg forwards, we're going to take the leg to the side, we're going to take the leg to the back and to the side and then change legs. So we're staying on one leg all the way through. Start on your weaker side. So we're lifting the knee and we're extending forwards, bringing that foot back in. From here we're turning out, so we don't need to put the foot down each time. Come back to the centre. This time I'm bending my supporting leg, flexing that foot, pitching forwards, coming upright, finishing off with a turn out, parallel and lower. I'm going to need to come a tiny bit more forwards on the other leg. So lifting parallel, nothing changes. Keep that thigh still and we're here. We're turning out, we're coming back. We're flexing them, hip hinging and bending that standing leg. It's all going on that one. And then we're taking the leg out to the side and parallel and lowering. Let's go again, one more time each side. Lifting. In fact, let's go twice through this time. Forwards to the back, open out. Take it to the behind you. Flex the foot, hinge over this hip, hold it here. Check is everything square. Make sure this back hip hasn't lifted up. Come upright, turn out. We're going again on this same leg. Extend the lower leg and turn out. Keeping my hands on my hips, making sure there's no rotation, there's no deviation. Think of that lovely line through that back heel to the top of your head, to upright, to turn out, parallel and lower, and on the other leg. Lifting, extending, and turning out. Going to the back. Flex that back foot, bend that standing leg. Come upright, turn out. One more set. There, turn out, take it behind you, check the hips, check the shoulders, keep the chin tucked in, back of the neck is long, we're coming up, we're turning out, back to parallel. Did we do twice that side? Not sure. If we didn't, carry on. Carry on as if you are. Okay, we're going to do one more set, just once through. So lifting, extending, turning out. We're going to hold this one back, flexing that foot, holding there. This time I'm going to dig my thumbs into my ribs so that my elbows are out the side and I can't change them. This I call aeroplane arms, 4 times, or aeroplane shoulders. I'm going to rotate just my shoulders, just my elbows, in towards that leg and challenge going the other way out and centre and in and centre and out. Your goal, especially when you open out, is really difficult. Don't let those hips join in. And out, one more. My head is staying absolutely still. Nothing's moving, apart from that jam jar lid rotation around. Ooh, and then coming upright, placing that leg down. Good job. You should have felt some nice work on that standing leg. One more on the other side. We're lifting, we're extending forwards, we're turning out. Taking that leg out behind you, holding it there. Thumbs digging in, which brings my elbows out to the side and keeps them fairly still. So the rotation towards that standing leg is relatively comfortable. That's your natural coordination. This one is strong. As I'm opening out, my right shoulder is lifting up, my right hip so wants to join in. Back to square. Rotate around. My head is staying in the same place. My spine is staying in the centre. I'm rotating. Thoracic spine, shoulders, arms around my spine. One more set to go. That standing leg working really hard. My ankle is starting to roll from side to side. Whoo, and way. Lost the balance in that last one. Ooh, and standing, finishing it off, hopefully a better job than I did. Well done. Good job. Okay, give us a little bit of a shake. We've got some nice stretches for the hips coming up. Let's go nice and wide. And in fact, at this stage, I'm going to put my monitor down a little bit. So move it so that you can see a bit better on the floor if you want to. Good, so feet are wide, shoulder width apart for a wide leg hip hinge. Insteps parallel. Let's hinge all the way forwards. Ooh, okay. If that's your first hamstring stretch since last week, which it is for me a little bit, I have to admit. Yeah, feeling a little bit tight. So make sure you're breathing. Don't go too far. I've got my hands on my hips. I'm focusing on hinging only from here and then coming upright. There's no change in my spine. Pitching forwards and backwards. It will get a little bit easier. Hold it there if you can. Let's take those arms out to the side. Let's take some circles here. Pitching the weight forwards onto the balls of the feet. I'm just tapping both heels so I know I'm pitched forwards, keeping the back of the neck long, changing direction with those arm circles. The arms are circling from the shoulder, but it's only a golf ball size circle at my fingertips, not a very big movement. Let's just bring those arms in by your sides. Keep them really nice and straight, just lifting the arms up a little bit. Continue to keep that head in, chin tucked in, back of the neck long. When you lift your arms up, watch that you don't allow the shoulder tip to round forwards. I'm pinning my shoulders back. And I'm going to come up from there. I'm going to turn my legs out now in my hip socket. So that was it's a really strong hamstring stretch, a great one to do, teach you to hip hinge as well, keeps the spine in its natural curves. Now we're looking at a different stretch in the groin, the spine stays upright, knees must go over your toes. Make sure, if you can see yourself in the mirror, that you've got good symmetry, both legs equally bending. Again, the first couple of these will always be a little bit ooh, a little bit ah. Quite strong work. Make sure you're breathing. Let's take the arms up as you go down and then straighten the legs. Arms are coming down. So I'm breathing out and in. Make sure you've got equal turn out in the feet, so they're both at the same angle, not one foot pinned back more than the other, because that's going to kick everything out. Good. If you can, stay down this time. This is a very strong stretch. I'm using just below my elbow, towards my hand. I'm pushing that area of my lower arm. I'm using it to push my knees back. And then I'm just taking a sway from side to side, and it's very strong. Might be a little bit uncomfortable, try and breathe through it if you can. Great, well done. Hands to the floor. I'm going to go back a little bit on the mat. Bring those feet to parallel now. And let's just drop down. In fact, let's have the toes out a little bit and just drop your hips down if you can. So so what we were just doing was very turned out, was your maximum turnout. This is just towards a deep squat, but you've got maybe got your legs a little bit wider than a
generally a deep squat, but I'm trying to get I have got my hips lower than my knees. If that's not available to you just yet, that's absolutely fine, but it will help if you've got your toes out to the corners a little bit. And then hands to the floor. So a lot of compression going on in the hip joint is absolutely fine. I'm just going to sway a little bit from side to side, transferring that weight. And then I'm going to bring my feet really parallel, tap my toes, reach the arms forwards, letting the head hang down between your arms. Touch your toes, take the hands forwards, touch your toes, take the hands forwards. There's no transference of weight when I take my hands forwards. One last time, leave the hands there. Maybe bend the knees a little bit more, drop those hips down, breathe, relax, make sure the head is really hanging down. My ears are by my biceps, itsy bitsy spider, your fingertips away a little bit more, and breathe. Think of the length all the way through your spine. Maybe slowly just lift your hips up a little bit, drop the hips down a little bit. Lift up a little bit, drop down a little bit. Make sure you're breathing, it's the most important thing. And then walk those hands back to your feet and straighten your legs. So hands are underneath my shoulders now, legs are straight. If you're up here, don't worry, just try and get those legs straight if you can. Then we're going to take, in fact, let's take seesaw hips from here. So what we were thinking about earlier with that hip, the box of the hip, your hips, you're tilting either side. It's quite a strong stretch in the groin. And then I'm going to take my upper body over to one leg. Hips were in the middle before I did that, sorry. So holding on to that lower leg somewhere, trying to get the head towards the knee. There's a strong stretch on the hamstrings, the backs of that thigh on that leg. Relax in the middle, swap to the other side. And breathe. If you need to bend a knee on this one, bend the other leg, not the one that you're reaching towards. Try and keep that one straight if you can. Coming back to the centre. The hands are underneath my shoulders. I'm taking my feet out much wider now. I'm taking my toes out to the corners. I'm going to keep my hands underneath my shoulders as I go from side to side. My legs are almost as far apart as the length of my yoga mat, and I've only got little legs. So try and get those legs nice and wide if you can. My weight is being supported through my arms. Brilliant. And let's just take one hand, the opposite hand to the foot, and then lifting up to the ceiling. Quite relaxed to start with. And swapping to the other side. This is too much for you to take the arm all the way up, the straight arm. Just lift your elbow. Just looking for a little bit of rotation from side to side. And then let's turn all the way around to one side. So legs hopefully will pretty much be in the right position. This knee is above the ankle, hands are on the floor. If you can, walk the hands backwards and forwards as you alternate bending and straightening each leg. You can put that back knee down if you need to. Keep the weight on your hands and continue to straighten that front leg and bend that front leg. Try not to go right all the way back here, that's called cheating and it's not really stretching anything there. If you can, keep that back foot up though. Backwards and forwards, moving through it. Breathing as you go. Then let's drop that back knee down. Bring the elbows all the way down towards the floor. And again, this is Monday. I don't know about you, but I haven't done anything, as I said, since last Thursday. I did watch a class online, but didn't actually get around to doing it. So everything's feeling a bit tight today, which is why this one's a bit more stretchy. So I can just about get that elbow down and then get the other elbow down. Try not to be here though, try not to be completely twisted. Wherever you are, elbows are level. And just move around within it. Find that space. Then let's bring the hand underneath the shoulder. Curl the toes under, straighten that back leg out if you can. So this is already a stretch here, the front of the hip, and then I'm lifting up, trying to touch the ceiling. I'm going to open a little bit more with that top shoulder, and then I'm going to thread the needle through. Lifting up, 3 of these. Bending this arm as I stretch through, lifting up and opening out, bending, 1 more of these. So you're probably looking away on that first one. Great, let's do all of that on the other side. Keep those legs wide, twiddle around to the other side. Get used to moving around in this position. So forwards and backwards. Walking my hands forwards and backwards to support me. The knee can be down, that's absolutely fine. Do what you can. If the knee is down, you might want to lift the chest and push this, drive this hip forwards to get that stretch on the hip flexor. Then everyone dropping that back knee down. I'm going to come across at a slight angle. So elbows are down. Again, I'm just going to ease myself into that. Both elbows are down just about. Moving around within it. Great. Taking the hand underneath the shoulders, straightening that back leg if you can. Lifting up to the ceiling. So this is my 180 degree from the top hand through my shoulders to the underneath hand. I'm going to open up those shoulders a little bit more and then bend my supporting arm, rotate the shoulders in the opposite direction, threading the needle through. I'm sort of aiming for that back corner towards my foot, lifting up, opening out and stretching through, lifting up, opening out. Stretching through. Going to do 1 more as I did 4 on the other side. And we're there. I think that was everything. Yeah. Elbows down, threading the needle. Good. Okay. Well done. Right, let's do some strength work. Only 10 minutes left. Okay. Hopefully you're feeling nice and fluid in that body. So let's take a little look at some a combination of moving from all fours into the plank and then adding some different arm upper body variations on that. It's going to go quite quickly. Just stick at a lower level if it gets too much. So from all fours, make sure those hands are underneath. I'm going to go forwards a little bit more. Hands underneath your shoulders, fingertips facing forwards. Maybe go a little bit wider than your shoulders. Knees underneath the hips. Curl your toes under if you can. This is the foundation of this movement, is just to lift the knees off and hold it there. Make sure you're in that perfect position. Back of the head and neck is lifted, shoulders are drawing down. I've strongly drawn my belly button towards my spine. I've connected my rib cage to my hips. My whole torso is braced, lowering the knees. If you are feeling not so strong today and that you want to stay there, then absolutely stay there. If you can, we're going to keep coming back to that position, the all fours position, but with the knees off. So we're lifting the knees again. From here, I'm going to straighten out one leg. Join in with me. Straighten out the other leg. So we're basically in the plank, nice wide position. Bring your first leg back in, hover that knee off, don't put it down. Bring the second leg back in, still hovering the knees, lower. Take a moment to relax and breathe. Make sure those elbows are slightly soft, fingertips facing forwards, hands spread apart, fingers and thumbs spread apart. We're going to lead with the other leg. Here we go. So both knees off. Lead with the other leg, straight leg into the plank. Second straight leg, hold it there. Bend the first knee in, keep the knee off. Second knee in, hold it there a moment and lower. Good. 2 more sets of this. Let's do 2 more, one more each set of that actually before I carry on. So lifting the knees, straighten one leg, straighten the other leg. Bring the first leg back in, second leg back in, lower those knees. Lead with the other leg, knees off. One leg straight, second leg straight, first leg hover, second leg hover, lower those knees. Good, we're going to repeat the similar thing. You're going to go out into the plank, then we're going to change the hand position when you're in the plank. So knees are off, straighten one leg, take the feet quite wide, straighten the second leg. Bring your one hand in to the centre, bring the other hand into the centre. Take the first hand back out, second hand back out, bring the first knee back in, second knee back in, lower, you know the score. 3 more, lead with the other leg. Knees off, straighten, straighten. One hand in, the other hand in. One hand out, the other hand out. One knee in, second knee in, lower. 1 more each side, here we go. Knees are off. Straighten one leg, straighten the other leg. If this is getting too much, stay here, come back into knees down, whatever. Bring your hand in, other hand in, hand out. First knee in, second knee in, lower. 1 more set of these if you can. Knees are off, straighten the leg, straighten the second leg. Hands are in, hands are in. Hand is out, second hand is out. First knee in, second knee in and lower. There was 1 more of those, but I think I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for Thursday. Save it for the next Pilates class A. So, just sitting back on your hips a moment. Twiddle, fingers, wrists, circling around. We're going to have a little look at some abdominal work. On your backs in the base position, just make sure you can easily see me. I'm going to look at isolating arms, upper body and legs for the lower body. So, get yourself nice and comfortable, lying down. Find a good base position. Our goal here for this whole first section is to maintain a neutral pelvis. So let's go back to that position that we did at the very beginning of class, the pelvic tilt, the forwards and backwards motion of the pelvis. Tucking under, when you're lying on your back, I'm pushing my waistband into the mat, pubic bone is higher than my hip bones, and rolling back. I'm not going the other way, sorry I shouldn't have said forwards and backwards maybe, but it is, but I'm coming back to neutral. I want you to find your neutral, know where your neutral is. Pubic bone, hip bones on the same plane, your natural curve in your lower back, really important. I'm just going to move this top away, so hopefully you might be able to see a bit of a gap there. That's my natural gap. I can see my pubic bone and my hip bones on the same plane. If I'm not in my natural gap, I'll lose that. I've got quite a curve there, but this is in the correct position. So we're going to start nice and simply, knee fold, lower and lower. Again, alternating the leading leg. Go to the other side. Knee fold, lower and lower. Use your hands to check, and going again, 2 more sets, to notice that there's no change, no rocking and rolling from side to side with the hips, no forwards and backwards with the pelvis. Let's do 1 more each side. Leading with 1 leg, perfect position here, feet slightly higher than the knees, knees directly above the hips, lowering and lowering, last one. So you're just hinging at the hip, isolating the leg moving. The torso is staying still and unchanged. Let's place the hands at the back of the head. Keep the feet down for the moment. Elbows are forwards. We're clearing those shoulder blades. Legs should be hip width apart. Think about where the weight is on your feet. I'm just taking a basic abdominal curl. So no change here. I'm isolating the upper part of my body. That's the bit that's changing, that spine peeling off. Keeping my head still in my hands. My arms, my hands are doing the work. Remember, your arms are a big baseball glove. Your head is a bowling ball. There's no change. Lifting and lowering, clearing that shoulder blade tip by 1 centimetre, that's it. Don't need to come up any higher. Nothing else is changing around here. Okay, let's add on. I'm staying up with my upper body. I'm going to keep those shoulder blades clear as I do one leg knee fold, second leg knee fold, first leg and lower. Repeat with the leading with the other leg, stay up. Lifting, lifting, lowering, lowering, lower everything. Let's do that again. Coming up for your abdominal curls. Stay here, make sure that head is heavy. One knee fold, second knee fold, lower, lower, staying up, keep everything still, apart from those legs. First leg, second leg, lower, and there, and there. If you're starting to feel uncomfortable in your lower back, it's maybe you haven't got enough stamina in your abdominal wall to support this movement. My legs are starting to shake a little bit as well, actually. If you want to, take a slight imprint, a very slight pelvic tilt. It's actually more about just really pulling in that lower abdominal wall. Whatever you do, make sure it stays still. If it's still too much, just take it to a different exercise, have a little practice of something else, maybe take some spine curls or something. Okay, we're going to go, we're going to try and take both legs up. I'm going to keep my elbows forwards, but I'm not lifting my head for the moment. So both legs at the same time. In order to do this, I have to really switch on in that abdominal wall. So I'm going to lift my heels up first, both legs up, lowering both legs. I'm using my elbows being forwards as a bit of ballast. Heels, you might only want to go here and then take a slight raise and lower the heels back down again. But if you can, come all the way up, all the way down. Let's add that upper body to this. So I'm going to come up in the upper, no, I'm going to lift the legs first, sorry. Heels first, lift the legs up, come up in the upper body. Stay up in the upper body, lower both legs, lower the upper body, and repeat. Heels, legs, upper body, stays up, lower the legs, lower the upper body. One more in this direction. Heels, legs, staying strong. Keep those shoulder blades cleared. Lower both legs with control. Lower that upper body. Let's reverse it. I'm going to come up with the upper body. Heels, both legs are up. Lower the upper body. Lower the legs with control. Clear the shoulder blades. Heels, lifting up. Lower the upper body. So this is both ends, but working in stages. So we're having to isolate, keep that torso absolutely still, and then let's make that the last one. I'm going to leave that there today as well. Gosh, rolling out of time. Okay, well done. Let's roll over onto our sides. I'm probably going to go over a little bit today, so if you have had enough or you haven't got the time to join in with the rest, maybe watch it a little bit later if you're getting the recorded version. We're going to do side lying and then prone. So, lying on your side, hips are stacked, legs are stacked. We're going to isolate the leg in the hip socket, a little bit like we did when we were standing up. Make sure your feet are in line with your spine, and legs are stacked one on top of the other. So we're lifting the top leg and lowering it in a mirror image. Lifting and lowering, lifting and lowering. Good, so not particularly hard work, just make sure that you're accurate, that you're lifting and lowering the foot and the knee. They're lifting at the same time, lowering at the same time, rather than the knee lifting first, then the foot, or that. We're going to change that around in a moment. Lifting and lowering. Should start to feel some work in this top buttock. Great, let's hold that leg up there. We're now going to move and swivel the leg within the hip socket. Hips are staying absolutely still. So again, we're isolating that leg, but on a different movement pattern now. I'm going to drop the knee down, the foot comes up. I'm going to drop the foot down, the knee comes up. It's like I'm drawing a shallow figure of 8, a very tall, slim figure of 8 with my kneecap. I've got my hand on this hip, checking that there's no change there. And now I'm really starting to feel some work. So this is a classic example of isolating. If I let my pelvis, if I let everything rock and roll forwards and backwards, it would be fairly interesting exercise. It wouldn't really be achieving much. What I'm trying to do is work on the stability of my pelvis and get that thigh bone, that ball and socket joint in my hip to move as much as possible by using the muscles. I have to use these smaller ones right in the middle of your buttock, your gluteus medius, and that's what's important. I'm using the right muscles to do this job, as opposed to my whole body moving in, joining in with the whole movement. Great, let's finish off this switching on of these buttock muscles with that leg nice and straight. Take a circle, a sort of small child's football size circle, I would suggest, behind your straight line. So here's my straight line. I'm making sure that my toe is making that circle behind the straight line. If it's all here, it's not anywhere near as effective. We want to be behind that straight line, about 8 to 10 in each direction. In fact, when you start to feel uncomfortable going in your first direction, change direction for between 5 and 8, and you should really want to stop at that point. Brilliant. And then before we do the other side, we're going to stretch that hip out. So taking the foot across the knee and just holding that there. So for me, that's already a good stretch. Not a huge stretch, but it's. I don't feel like I can take it anymore. I'm just going to let my legs roll gently from side to side. And then I'm going to lift that leg up in the air if you can. I'm going to place my one hand through this gap, so the same hand as the leg I've got across, the knee that's sticking out to the side. One hand through the gap, interlace the other hand behind, and then if you can, rest your head down. So this could be done here. You could put that foot up on the wall and be there. And that's equally quite strong. If you can't actually get your hands behind. Then if you can, hold that there. Oh, the foot that's in the air. Let's isolate that foot at the ankle by circling around. Swapping sides, swapping directions. Breathing. I don't know about you, but that's really quite tight for me. And then finishing off this stretching of the hips, taking hold of that top foot and that shin, fixing your legs in that position, and then circling the legs around. It's like I'm stirring a big bowl of soup with my legs.
Parts of a circle are okay, parts of a circle are really quite tight. Allow your hips to roll. It's quite a nice massage on your lower back as well. Breathe, most importantly. And the sad thing is that this is my more flexible hip. So I'm looking forward to the other side even more. Okay, rolling over onto the other side. So straight line, hips and shoulders stacked on top of each other, waist lifted away. Make sure your heels are in line with your spine. So not legs here and not feet all the way too far back. Just there. Should be relatively comfortable for your legs. Hand on this top hip. We're lifting and lowering. So the top leg is a mirror image of the underneath leg. Lifting and lowering. No change. Hopefully you're starting to feel some work in that top buttock. Check that nothing else is moving or joining in. Then let's hold that leg up, drop the knee down, foot up, foot down, knee up. This is where this hip will really want to move forwards and backwards. Especially if this is your tighter hip, which it is for me, it's less mobile. Think about the exercise we did first of all when we were standing up, turning that leg out. We're only turning that one leg out. Same sort of movement here. Trying to just really mobilise that joint. Just bring that shoulder down, don't have it up round your ear like I just had mine. And when you start to feel some strong work going on in that buttock, we're just going to extend that even more. So straight leg, lift your head up, have a little look. You should be able to stand on that leg. And then take the circle behind that straight line. Keeping the hips still. Just this hand just lightly placed on the floor. Shoulders down, rib cage connected. When you would really like to stop, change direction. So strengthening the buttocks, the back line of the body, really important. But not allowing all the other muscles to join in and help you get that job done. Okay, well done. Rolling onto your back. And taking that foot across your other knee and breathing. And for me, I just feel the need to let my legs roll from side to side. It just helps to ease that stress, that initial stress when you go into these stretches. You could also just roll that knee in and out. Find whatever works for you. Doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what I'm doing. Then lifting that other leg up if you can, intensifying this stretch. One hand through the gap, interlace the hands behind that other knee, circling the foot that's in the air, isolating at the ankle so the rest of the leg isn't joining in. So my goal here is to pull the bent knee in, so I've got my hands behind it, and to push the other knee away, but using my muscles. And that's really quite strong. Just breathing. So we're partly circling that foot to take our mind off of the strong stretch as well, which always helps. And then I'm going to fix that foot there and circle those legs, fixing in that position.
So if you've got your foot static up against the wall or a chair or something, absolutely fine. Maybe just move this knee in and out. Maybe just let your hips roll from side to side. Change in direction if you've got doing the circles.